Assalamu alaikum. So you're here live on Speaker's Corner. I've just rushed into the studio, running late, nothing unusual for me. So we're discussing today, I've a guest, a friend with me called Jordan M. Mashallah. So I'll introduce him in a few moments. So the topic of today is, what is British culture? What do we think about when we think about British culture? What is it? What does it represent to us? And how's it changing? But before we get too much into that, inshallah, I'm going to pass you over to Jordan. He's got a YouTube channel called Jordan M.
Jordan M, yeah.
TikTok.
Muslim geezer.
Muslim geezer.
Muslim geezer.
So he's obviously now the
Muslim
the
geezer.
cat's out
Giving
the
it
bag.
away.
Yeah, he's out now. So he's out in the open.
Yeah.
So you're a revert yourself, innit, bruv?
I am. Been Muslim 6 years.
Right, 6 years. So we won't go too much into the ins and outs of you, but how many years?
Maybe 7 now.
7 years. 6 to 7 years.
Tracking it, yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah, that's not too bad.
Yeah. Am I still a revert?
Yeah, you'll always be a revert, bro.
Oh,
You don't get to get rid of that title very easily, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously Jordan is white, British, English. Is that right?
Yeah.
Enough. Okay. Right. So personally, when I think about British culture, I think about white people first.
Fine.
Because we're white, you know,
Yes.
and it's predominantly originally, unless you go back, I don't know how many thousands of years, but it's a predominantly white indigenous country. So I think of the Carry On movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of Afghan.
Yeah.
You know, I think of, like the Sunday roast, pubs, darts, snooker, you know, that type of thing. That for me is when what I think about when I think about culture. Them sort of, obviously there's more to it than that. There's a lot more history.
Yeah.
You've got King Henry VIII and all that mob, and we go back even further to Stonehenge and all that. But for modern days, when you think of British culture, bruv, I mean, where do you live, in West London or?
I live North London.
North London.
Or Hertfordshire, on the border.
Okay.
I was thinking on the way here, actually, because it's quite a broad topic. And I was actually thinking that you, yourself, typify British culture for me.
Do I?
Yeah. So I'll expand on it. So I would say British culture is manners, hard working.
Yeah.
Chivalry. So look, and this is probably traditional British values. We can talk about how it's changed.
Yeah. It hasn't changed for the better.
A great neighbour. No, I agree.
It hasn't.
I'm probably talking about our grandparents.
Yeah.
When you think of them, they are classy people. They'll hold the door open for their ladies. They will always have manners. We queue. In Britain, we queue, right?
We love a queue.
If you've ever travelled.
No, we love a queue.
If you ever travelled. So I went to Africa once, and I've also been to another country as well, where I'm the only one standing in the queue. Everyone's pushing in.
No, what a queue then, was it?
Exactly. It's me thinking I've got a space.
Jordan, if you're the only one there, then you ain't in the queue.
Yeah, that's true.
At least another person in front of you.
That's true. It's just me standing there
and all the other people getting served. Yeah. You're that polite English guy abroad, aren't you? That's just thinks that everyone thinks like we think.
Yeah.
No, you know, my granddad. We don't know him, but I did have on my mum's side. What he would do every Sunday, he would get dressed. He would always dress in a shirt, tie, suit, polished his shoes. He would go down the Wabbit pub. I don't think it's even a pub now. In where he lived, in the town centre, dressed nicely, very smartly, with £1,000 in his pocket. That was all the money he ever had, and he would have a couple of light ales, and that was his Sunday. He never get drunk, never swore. I never heard him be abusive or foul or anything like that. He was just that typical old. I think he was the last of that generation. You know, the typical old English. Yeah. Everything was. I don't think he ever left the country. I don't think he ever went on a plane or a boat. Yeah, probably went on a coach or something.
Would you describe him as tolerant?
Very.
Yeah, because that's interesting as well, isn't it? Is British culture tolerance? Because it's turning the opposite way now, isn't it? But when I think of your granddad's era, I think of people that are proud to be British, but also are tolerant of other.
But then again,
people.
they were tolerant to. I suppose if you look at the word tolerant, they were tolerant to what? They were tolerant to their environment that they had at the time, which was way different to the environment that we have now.
Sure.
You know, it's very easy to be tolerant when there's less things to be tolerant for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do think that British culture now has taken. It's a case of it's been kind of hijacked by the far right. Or by the racists, I think a little bit anyway, not completely.
No, the word patriot now has become, for me, is like a geezer with a skinhead football shirt shouting out, "Get the immigrants out!" And that's not really what a patriot ever was it? Being patriotic, doesn't mean.
What makes you patriotic? I mean, because they're trying to control the narrative about what a patriot is. You know, what I'm saying? And the more you hate people that are not like you, the more patriotic you are. Yeah. Well, what they don't understand is in their culture, they listen to music that's created by black people. They eat food that was created or comes from India. They drink lager that's brewed in Europe. They wear clothes made in China, and they drive cars that are made in Japan. There's not much British going on anymore because we've got rid of all our industry. But it does seem to me that as long as you can hate these people over here, you're a patriot.
Yeah.
But what do you do? A lot of these guys that call themselves patriots, they're the least patriotic people to the community.
100%. Like, I don't feel like I can, relate to a lot of these guys that are, voting reform or talking about getting immigrants out. And, I understand the conversation behind immigration. But I think most people are tired of hearing it as, there's an invading force coming over. These Muslims do this, and only focusing on kind of the race of perpetrators that are doing bad things.
Yeah, they're super focused. They're hyper focused on a very negative small element. But that being said, I mean, let's look at it from this view. By the way, guys, if you want to get in on this conversation or text, you can 07779 481822. If you're brave enough to call us.
Do you get any calls?
Nah, they don't want to know, bro. Maybe they don't want to talk
give
to
us
me.
a call. Come on, give us a call.
If you get calls, I'll be super annoyed. No one's
just to annoy Dowie. Call us.
No one's ever called me. Flooded with calls. All of a sudden, they want to talk to you. Okay, so if you do want to talk to Jordan or possibly me, 01582 481822.
Yeah.
Inshallah, we look forward to that. If someone does ever want to talk to me or Jordan, probably, I don't know. Yeah. So what was I going to say? I was going to say something about the far right. It seems to me now that they've sort of this reform. Would you call reform far right or right? Far right or right?
I think
does it position itself?
For me, I think we've redefined far right. Far right, to me, always meant keep the country white and quite an extreme. Now I think the far right. And I think Keir Starmer's probably changed the label, hasn't he? We know what the far right is now. It's the Tommy Robinson lot. It's the kind of civic nationalist type. The Reform UKs, possibly the UKIPs as well. The people that were rioting after Southport, they were described as kind of the far right, which I think is a new term because the far right used to always be given to, like, I don't know if you know Mark Collette and the kind of neo-Nazi kind of people.
Yeah, I mean
I don't like the term too much.
No, because
I think you're not far right if you have an issue with immigration. You're not far right if you're proud of certain things.
So to some people I would be far right because I think we should have a robust immigration policy because you can't just have people rocking up in the country. You don't know who they are. Where every country should have a right to maintain its borders and to know who's coming in. I don't think there's anything racist about that. I don't care who they are. I don't care how white or how black or how brown they are. It's just a policy that you 100%. Should have.
I voted Brexit. I'm a Brexiteer.
The only reason I didn't vote Brexit, brothers, because I didn't like the people telling me to vote Brexit. At the time, I really didn't know the ins and outs of the policies and everything else. But I thought if Nigel Farage and who was it? Who was the
Boris? Was part of it,
I thought it can't be right if they want it.
Well, a lot of people jumped on it. Even Tommy jumped on the bandwagon, and it was a bit off-putting then because then Brexit became a racist vote, which it never was for me originally. No,
it wasn't for not everyone that voted Brexit was racist, but all the racists voted for Brexit. Yeah, I think that's what they say, isn't it? But for me, it was just a case of this. If you guys want to do it, it can't be right. It can't. So we're joined with Abu Siddiq now. He's my my usual co-partner in on the station.
Somebody come
right. So that's it. So we're here now. So we've got. Sorry, have we got text? I'm getting it all over the place.
Got a text message.
You got a text. Oh, so someone has texted in here. Sometimes I've got to read these privately before I read them out, so I could be reading anything.
Just on your phone.
No, it's on this computer screen here. So anyone that gives me a computer obviously don't know me very well. Can't get back access. Rwanda is backstage. Go to her. Okay, I don't know what that means. Steve C. Hi, Namzi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Still want Sharia law in the UK, Jordan. Well, that's to you.
Yeah, so I mean, this is on your
spot now,
that's straight on there, isn't it? Look, I think this is a conversation that I don't know any Muslims that are campaigning to get Sharia law in the UK. I don't know that, but a Muslim believes that Sharia law is God's law. So if you're asking me, do I want Sharia law? Well, I live my life by Sharia law, right? So I've always described it that way. Am I campaigning to change the UK, which currently allows me to live as a Muslim anyway, currently? So am I campaigning in the streets, Sharia law, we want that? No, I mean, am I keen on blasphemy laws and things like that? I am. And so would probably a devout Christian. We probably share a lot of similarities in that.
Similar values.
But I think, you know, my words have been twisted, and I think I'm not calling for Sharia law, but I don't think any Muslim is going to turn around and say to you, you know what, nah, I don't want God's law.
You know,
I don't want God's. If I wanted, you know, to live in a Muslim country, I would go and live in one.
It's not that easy, bro.
Is it not?
No,
I never tried. You have to tell us about it.
What do you guys think that the general white British public think that Sharia law is?
Good point.
Because I think, like,
because when I'm saying it, I'm not thinking about, you know, someone in the street getting, you know, don't know what we can say on here, but unalived.
Not much. No, you know what it is? It's a good question. What? Because look, they'll have a misconception. I think there's a lot of Muslims out there that probably really don't want to live under Sharia law, because if you can't establish Sharia on your body and your house, then you're not going to want it in society as large, are you? You know what I mean? But what do you think that they think that it means then?
That's what I'm asking you guys, because you guys are white.
But so we'd know. That's a bit racist.
No, I don't know about that. This is like chess. No. But really, the reason for my question is that I believe that if it was dispelled, basically understood what Sharia law is from a fundamental perspective, 100%. Then they might think like, it's not that bad. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I just think
if
that
you saw the NHS and you know, a lot of the sort of income stuff, a lot of it is, you know, would be Sharia based. So I think it's a great question. What does the average white person think?
If they would call in and tell us, look,
I think it's Anjum Chowdhury.
We've seen videos, of people talking about what they think Sharia law is, and then this guy says, you know, they want to put Muslimic ray guns and you know, mosques everywhere, and do you get what I'm saying? Like, we want to know, what do you guys really think that the public really,
because that's a real threat to the culture of this country. That's what they will perceive it. So I think, talking to white guys on building sites and places like this, when the Sharia is mentioned, they said that you completely want to change the country, you know, like change all the laws, everything's going to be anti-white people and pro-Muslim. Okay, and they can see that as an absolute replacement and threat to whatever culture they have left, and so it's a real trigger word for them. You want Sharia law. Hold on a minute, like Jordan says, if you're a Muslim and you say you don't want Sharia law, there's a kind of a where are you then? You know what I mean?
I get a feeling a lot of people just see it as barbaric punishments. So when they think of Sharia law, they're thinking of barbaric Hudud punishments, which if you're, you know, and the Sharia is like, what's that, 0.0%, you know, 1% of what it all encompasses. It would be like, you know, going to America and reading that, you know, they fry people in electric chairs and judging the whole constitution on that. That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? But I feel like that's what people do.
But the difference is the Americans created that law for themselves. This would be an implemented law, wouldn't it? Wouldn't be based on the Bible. It wouldn't be based on the Magna Carta. It wouldn't be based upon anything traditionally from this country. It'd be a whole new replacement of rules and legislations that are already existing. Even though a lot of them are coexisting. I mean, the whole point of having a prison system, the whole point of having a welfare state system, these things are all in the Sharia law originally. They were kind of sort of taken from that. But they wouldn't. That for them, it would just be a big fat replacement. Okay, you want to get rid of this and implement that.
From a cultural perspective, anything that contradicts Islam from a cultural perspective is rejected. You get what I'm saying? So even if you're African, you're Asian, Caribbean, or you're English, whatever your culture is, Islam, anything that contradicts it or is a harm to you will be rejected. So if there's something in British culture that British people hold dearly that is a harm to them from an Islamic perspective, then that would be seen to be something that should be either stopped.
But there is. There is things.
So that's this. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
this alcohol is the first one.
That's what I'm saying.
Or bacon.
Bacon.
Oh God, it's always. How can you live without bacon?
Bacon.
You'd be surprised.
Cans. So I'm saying this. If that is something that's going to be, that's going to be, Islam says that drinking alcohol is not khamr, it's not permissible. But then it's part of your culture. It's the same, like, for example, smoking weed. Yeah.
Would you say that would be a Jamaican
It's
culture?
a cultural thing. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Yeah. Not just Jamaican. The whole Caribbean. You know, a lot of people smoke weed.
Yeah.
And listen to music
as their way of relaxing.
Relaxation. Do you get what I'm saying? Whereas a British man, he might have a can of beer and he might watch the football.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? So those things are harmful to the person. Yeah. From a health perspective, from many perspectives. Yeah. And would therefore be seen as something that you should stop or remove. So it's not just British culture, it's any culture.
Yeah, but it will be coming into Britain.
It'll be coming into Britain, but the person would have to think to themselves, look, this thing called Sharia is to preserve life. Do you get what I'm saying? So why wouldn't you want to preserve your life?
Yes, but then that would have to, first you'd have to be on the premise that they actually believed in a God.
True.
Then you'd have to be that they believed in the same religion that Muslims believe in, and they're going to say, and a lot of them are just massively opposed to it because one, they don't understand it. Mainly, I think is a big problem. Secondly, there could be racial elements involved. Or say this isn't our religion. This is a religion from. They probably think it's from India or Pakistan or somewhere like that. You know, they're not 100%. Have we got a phone call?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, we got the first phone call ever.
Jordan, welcome.
You know what? Yeah.
Mum, is that you?
Literally the first phone call ever, yeah?
Yeah, and that is because Jordan's here. Is it because I'm here or Jordan, bro? Tell the truth, bro, please.
No.
Me, thank you.
I don't. Which guy was it the other day that was doing like the history of like the far right in the UK and stuff?
That would be me.
Okay, so yeah, I was listening to that the other day and I wanted to call in, but I was busy. So then I tuned in today. And you were asking like what the white guys think about Sharia law, like the white British guys, and
yeah.
So I thought I'd chime in. Maybe I might not represent everybody, but at least give you some perspective from the other side of the fence.
So if you want to, can you guys hear this?
Is it a white British guy?
Yeah. I'm one white British guy. My name's Andrew.
Okay,
Andrew. Born and raised in Luton, so I'm like one of you lads, Luton lad.
Okay.
I don't live around here, mate.
No,
no thanks.
Jordan don't live around. But anyway, it's white, so he's halfway there, bro. So, so what you got to say, bro? What's your what is it that you want to?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I had to cut out to make the call, but you know, like when you talk about it, it wouldn't be based from the Bible or from the Magna Carta. It wouldn't necessarily be tied to English history and culture.
Yeah.
Where you said what's left of English culture, that was a little bit offensive because there's quite a lot of English culture left around the world, you know, like Shakespeare and Dickens and Jane Austen and things like that, you know, literature.
But bro, I appreciate, but how many people under 30 know anything about Shakespeare?
Well, yeah, I suppose, but it's part of most curriculums in school.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's not many people that I know talk about Shakespeare. I don't even know who Shakespeare is, bro.
Oh, no, absolutely, but it shapes, like, the conversation we're having now in terms of the language, like, slang and things like that. Like, it's played a major impact.
Yeah, it has. I mean, we can't say that it hasn't, bro. But, you know, like, culture is a social construct, and they're always changing over time. So even without Islam or people that were Muslim in the country, the culture would naturally have changed to some degree at least anyway, because
oh yeah, especially when you look at how diverse the UK is becoming now. Of course you're going to get a mix of all of those sorts of ideas and cultures and people, which is totally understandable. That's fine, but I think obviously it is scary for a lot of people to think that everything that they did grow up with will change, and by the time they pass away and hand it down to their kids, it'll be a very different country. Which isn't a bad thing if the people that are living here are happy to get along and we're peaceful and people are like reading off the same page.
Can I ask him a question?
Yeah, you're going to get asked a question by Abu Siddiq.
Cheers.
So today, as it stands today, what's your definition of British culture today?
So I would say, I know this sounds a bit strange, but I'd say there's two. As in, you've got the historic British culture, which is the white British native culture, the culture that's been here since Alfred the Great formed England as an English Christian nation, and has developed. And then you've got like the modern, diverse, tolerance and inclusion sort of British culture, which is obviously a little bit different. But it's generally based on Christian principles, which are obviously, you know, love thy neighbour, turn the other cheek, repent,
but there's
forgiveness.
a lot of atheists now, isn't there? I mean, there's a lot of people now that wouldn't identify as Christian.
They won't identify as Christian. So what would be British culture for them?
Yeah.
outside of religion?
That would, yeah, but that would be a good question to ask them. Obviously, I am Christian, I'm religious.
Okay.
So obviously, again, for you as a Muslim, you might have your interpretation of what British culture is for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is a balance. When we're in our own homes, we're obviously going to practice and we're going to live more in our own culture.
Yeah.
Your culture isn't exactly the same as mine, but there is a balance that we can share a culture when we're out and about, when we're being civil and being respectful to each other.
And do you think that it's having a large Muslim community in a town changes that cohesion and changes that? You feel outnumbered? Do you feel threatened?
I don't feel outnumbered. I grew up in the area, so I've got loads of friends from different backgrounds: African, Caribbean, Asian, Eastern European and stuff. It doesn't really feel like that, but of course it does change. It changes the general cohesion, a bit of a mix. Like when I grew up in school, it was a lot more mixed. Nowadays, there's a lot more in Luton. There's a lot more Asian people, a lot more people from a Muslim background, which obviously is going to change. The more of them together, they're now less exposed to British culture, African culture, Caribbean culture, Eastern European culture. So then that you're not mixing as much, and then we're not finding that balance in the middle where everyone can get along, which is then a great opportunity for people who are divisive to use that to turn us all against each other.
All right. Well, look at this. Yeah. We got a black man, we got an Asian man, yeah, and we got a British man, yeah, and we're all born here, yeah. Like I'm born here, yeah, and when I look at British culture, I think of things like EastEnders, The Bill, Grange Hill, Casualty, Boone. Who remembers Boone? Like I grew up on all of that stuff. Prisoner Cell Block H. Do you get what I'm saying?
But that's in Australia.
Drinking. I know, but we always watch it.
Yeah,
home and away, neighbours.
And on that, we would share common ground in terms of, it's a bit cheesy, but I know exactly where you're coming from.
That's what I'm saying. British culture, like the dad hats, like we ate shepherd's pie. You get me? I heard you say shepherd's pie last week.
But then
we ate bangers and mash. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but here's a bit of a question. I think this is where people are afraid. Is what would Sharia law look like for me and my family if I was to live in that society, but not be a Muslim, be a white British, and I'm living in that society? What does it look like for me? What freedoms do I have now that I might not have then? Or would I be treated equal? Would I be treated equally? That's what I don't know.
Of course, but it also depends on your distinction of what is freedom. Do you get?
I'm not sure why people ask that question though. Are you scared that Sharia law is coming to the UK?
Well, you said it yourself. Every Muslim would desire Sharia law.
Yeah, but I think people aren't campaigning Sharia law. People are living by it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, which is understandable. But obviously, with Muslims being 4 or 5 million people, we are a democracy. There is a voting bloc. 10, 20, 30 years from now, there's nothing stopping people voting for a government that would implement Sharia law. It's not unrealistic.
I would say.
No, but let's look at what he's asking. What would Sharia law look like for him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I pick up? Can I pick up on the fact that, because I think that obviously you talk about Christianity and stuff. Do you agree people have become very liberal, right? So. I know you take issue and
I certainly don't agree with all of it, but they have.
Yeah. So when Doward's talking about kind of the cultures. Maybe not what it used to be. You agree that the Christianity's kind of let slip, right?
Without a doubt, yeah.
So I'm just wondering why you're going into Sharia law.
Just because that was the subject you guys were talking about. I didn't necessarily start the conversation. I just thought I'd chime in with it.
What I think the point I wanted to make was that I think because that liberalism is also affecting a lot of Muslims as well. So I think it's about 5% of Muslims. I don't think they're all like us kind of thing. So I'm just saying, when the far right talk about this, the Muslim population is growing and stuff like that. So this liberalism is affecting everybody. So
it's diluting everything.
So it's affecting, Christianity's almost died out because of it. I think Islam is holding stronger, but I don't think, when you look at people like Siddiq Khan and people like that, I don't think these are evidences of Sharia law like you see people.
No, I wouldn't say that. I'd say Siddiq Khan's incompetent at his job, but it's nothing to do with his religion.
We've got 30 seconds left of this section of the show, and if you want to stay on the phone, bro, afterwards, we're happy to carry on the conversation unless we've got anyone else who wants to talk to us. We've got a few text messages from Facebook this time. Now they've shown me how to use it. So,
but yeah, no, I'm going to jump off. I've just finished work, but I appreciate your time, guys.
No, we do appreciate your call, bro. It's been, and call me any time.
Yeah, if you want to discuss more like what it would mean for someone like myself, that's a good insight for me. That would be eye-opening for myself, just to see what that Britain looks like for you guys in the future.
Sweet.
Cheers for your call.
Switched him off.
Yeah.
Right. You're having a panic attack out there.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
आपका साथ है कम्युनिटी की आवाज है बस एक ही आवाज है आप समात फरमा रहे हैं इंस्पायर एफएम 105.1
Landlords, let us take away the hassle of letting your property. Our comprehensive services include tenant vetting, rent collection and service charges, maintenance and repairs. Ideal Properties has 2 branches and have been established over 20 years and have gained a wealth of knowledge and experience.
If you are thinking of selling or letting your property, then speak to a member of our knowledgeable team about a free, no-obligation market appraisal.
We can also offer guaranteed rental income.
Contact us on either Luton 721110 or 696050. Ideal Properties. Service with a smile, whatever your needs.
Universal Clutches on Cosgrove Way in Luton offer more than just clutch repairs. We also now cover MOTs, servicing, brakes, suspension and vehicle recoveries. We've got you covered whether you drive a manual or semi-automatic car, van or truck. We aim to provide a quick and reliable service, and Universal Clutches are an AA and RAC approved garage. For a reliable service you can trust, call 01582 876 300 or find Universal Clutches on Google, Instagram and Facebook.
Looking for an unforgettable start to summer? Then join us for our spectacular Faith and Fields Eco Camping Festival for all the family. Set in the beautiful Willowbrook Farm in Oxfordshire. Enjoy many spiritually uplifting talks and reminders from renowned speakers including Yahya Burt, Dr. Miriam Francois and others. Activities including archery, African drumming, arts and crafts, a mega inflatable slide, and a nasheed concert with stars like Mecca Medina, Khalid Siddiq, and many others. Tickets are selling fast. Search ISB Faith and Fields to book now and use promo code INSPIRE for a special discount. Make your summer unforgettable.
Need a ride? Village Taxis has you covered. Going to the airport, station, work, hospital or school? Call Village Taxis on Luton 250 for a quick, reliable service. New drivers wanted. Get registered today and join the Village Taxis team, serving Luton, Central Beds, TfL, Wolverhampton, Hertfordshire and beyond. Taxi rental also available. Download our easy-to-use Village Taxis app or call on 01582 250 250 to book your ride today. Village Taxis, your local taxi company.
Can you imagine losing your parents and seeing your home destroyed? Thousands of children in Gaza have lost one or both of their parents. Agosh UK invites you to sponsor an orphan in Gaza and provide them with life-changing care, protection and hope. Let's help orphans to rebuild their lives. Donate your zakat and sadaqah for an orphan in Gaza today. £500 per year or £42 per month. Visit Agosh UK.
इंस्पायर एफएम की वेबसाइट पर लुटन की तमाम मसाजिद के औकात नमाज मौजूद हैं। किसी भी मस्जिद के औकात जमात जानने के लिए इंस्पायर एफएम की वेबसाइट आपका बेहतरीन जरिया www.inspirefm.org।
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. So you're back here live on Speaker's Corner with Abu Siddiq, Jordan M, and myself, Doward, aka Easter English. So we are discussing. We started discussing actually what is British culture, and then we've got onto the topic of Sharia law, because I think the reason how we got onto that topic is that indigenous people of this country may see Sharia law as a replacement law to what's already going on, and they may see that as threatening. At least that's how it's being perceived by a lot of the media. They pick up on this and they try and scaremonger and gaslight people. Oh, these Muslims are gonna, I mean, Nigel Farage and people like that, Tommy Robinson, there'll be classics in gaslighting people to say, the more there is of them, the more likely they're going to be to implement their way of life, which will be Sharia law. And what people understand of Sharia law, like Abu Siddiq was mentioning a minute ago in the break, is that the understanding of Sharia law is going to be off key anyway. It's not going to be accurate anyway. And I think there's none of us here that are scholars of Sharia, but the non-Muslims definitely will have misconceptions of it. Okay, so for me, I mean, like I said, I don't think they've got. Look, you can go to a Muslim country and they're nearly 99% Muslim and they don't have Sharia law because the Muslims themselves don't implement it, unfortunately, in a lot of the situations. So people do get a little bit. It's very easy to gaslight people with it. So we're going to go into a few. We've got a few messages here. So I can't read all of them out because we're a little bit busy at the minute, but I will get back to them on the privately. We've got Aisha Shah. She's mentioned, I think it is more to have I think it's more they have a blame. They think it's more they have to blame someone for their failures in life choices. and also we have, and also we have people that just hate take something. So basically people are looking to blame other people for their failures in life when they might they should be looking at the people that put them in that position in the first place, like the elites, the rich, and the politicians that have been rinsing the country for many times. She's also going to say every issue in this country has had a problem. Every issue in this country has had a problem, and problems is far from the top. It's from the top down with their policies and don't help with the British people. So there's someone who's blaming obviously the top. I mean, we can't as Muslims take responsibility for that. You know, we can take.
But what we can take responsibility for is to make the comprehension of Sharia more digestive, more palatable. It's our job. The same way it's our job to call people to Islam. It's our job to make it comprehensive to all people, so that no one has a skewed perception of Sharia, and that's our fault.
Yeah, and we were talking in the break there as well, because I think Andrew was obviously asking. I think 100% right. People, I think Islam, and I'd say even Sharia, is a diamond that is covered by mud, and that mud's been thrown at it by Tommy and an Islamophobic industry that is, you know, billions.
But there would be certain fun facts about Sharia law that would be contradictory to the way people live right now.
True, but here's a fact, and I think that they're implementing this in Malaysia as well. Sharia law is for Muslims. So in a Sharia state, for example, right, Christians and Jews still have their own court systems. So when people are worried about what Sharia law for us, you know, Sharia is for Muslims. Sharia is the pathway to life. I'm not saying, you know, obviously the country is Sharia.
So would they still have their pubs?
Would they have their pubs?
Yeah, because they say, well, if I'm not a Muslim and I don't have to follow your Sharia, can I still have a pub?
Well, look at this. Well, if you're a Christian, you know, is alcohol something that you want to invite into your home, knowing the vices that it carries with it? I mean, what is it that Sharia law prohibits? Is it something that preserves your life, or is it something that attacks your desires?
But again, bro, you'd have to believe. You're looking at it as a Muslim, and I agree because you're preaching to the choir with me. But as a Christian or a non-Christian or an atheist or someone that's just agnostic or someone that just there's a God, but I don't really know what religion it is. I don't care about religion. Religion is all for other people. I'm just getting on with my day-to-day life. That person is saying, I don't care about what you believe in. Don't stop me doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And if I want to go down and have a beer, if I want to play pool, if I want to do whatever I want, that's none of your business. Yeah. And then we have the whole other agenda, which we can't really talk about here now, which people's persuasions with who they have relationships with. There's just, you know, some of this stuff isn't compatible with Sharia. But I don't think it's, like I said, I think this is just a false herring. It's a dead cat argument because it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
not in anywhere I can see. We're not going to get Sharia law in this country in any time I can see coming soon. I mean, I not in my generation or anyone, or my kids or my kids' kids. It's just not going to happen because Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is not going to give Islam to people that are not practicing it themselves.
Doward, the World Cup was not so long ago in Qatar.
Yeah,
people went over to a Muslim country, run, you know, with Muslim laws. They drank there. You know, they drank in their little corners. Yeah. I think bits were provided for them. They lived there. And a lot of them, they weren't allowed to drink in the street. They weren't allowed to interrupt the Muslims. A lot of them came back saying how lovely it was.
Yeah.
So I'm saying this idea of are they closing our pubs? Are they shutting our bacons? Are they all that stuff?
Shutting the bacons.
How they doing? Where do they make the bacons? Shutting Greg's. I don't know. Wherever you do your ham sandwiches. I don't think that's that's not something that people should be concerned about.
But it is an easy gaslight for the likes of Tommy and Farage to put on people, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that divides the communities a lot.
You can't really plead ignorance because information is available. It's just whether you want to see what's really going on with this Sharia thing. And when you look into it, you really, understand that it is to preserve life. Whether you want to go and destroy your life by doing things like drinking alcohol and smoking cannabis and doing drugs, then that's a different situation. But for the most part, preserving human, before we even get to Sharia taking over Britain, like let's look at what it actually means, what it is as a system, and what is it there to serve? It's there to serve the preservation of your life.
Yeah, I know, but there's some people that live in the moment, bro. We all know there's somebody. I don't care about the afterlife. I don't really believe
if they're living in the moment, why don't they worry what secularism's doing to their churches and stuff? Because that's an ideology that is imposing things on their church.
But it's imposing things on their. Have a church affiliation. They don't even go to church. I mean, we're looking at it from religious lines. If you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, or a Jew, or a Hindu, or a Sikh. But some people are like, I'm not none of that. If there's a God, he'll sort me out when I'm dead. I don't really know. But right now, I'm just going to do what I want to do.
But British values are changing under secularism, aren't they? They're actually being enforced on people. We're being forced to accept things that we don't think are right.
Which my granddad would have.
Which is happening right now. So forget about Sharia, what you're worried about in the future. You're currently getting an ideology that is enforcing things upon you. And you're not that worried.
No, I think that's a good point. That's a good point, because what they're doing is they are changing the narrative and they are changing the culture and blaming, look over there, look at the Muslims there. The threat is that they're going to change it, but actually they're changing it all the time.
Attack right now.
They're on it right now. Yeah, that's right now.
Like, for example, LGBT.
Yeah.
Right. That movement there, where they are now in schools teaching, certain concepts to the children of these people in a way that I'm sure they're not happy with in some cases. Do you get what I'm saying? But that's an imposition of an ideology. Do you get what I'm saying? That's Sharia. Sharia is not. It's not like that with the Sharia.
No, but they would say it's freedom for people to express themselves and say. I mean, that would be their interpretation of how they feel about it. I don't know how. We say about it's being taught in schools, and my youngest is still at school, and he said he's never had it once. They've never taught it once.
I know drag queen story hour is a real thing.
Is it?
I know that for sure.
They are revealing certain sexual aspects to younger children that and they have to decide whether they want it in their curriculum or not.
Right. So but you have as a parent, you have a choice to opt out of that. Your child to opt out, don't you? I'm not sure because my youngest is nearly leaving school. He's in the last couple of years, so I mean, maybe it's different now. Maybe that's a little bit behind him.
But the point is that that's something that's been imposed in the case where it's forced in your face. You know what I mean? You got and it's like your kids. You send your kids to those schools that do that. Sharia law is not like that. It's not like that's not the same situation.
But like I say, so all cultures are going to change over time, because time changes, culture changes. It's a construct, modern technology. For example, if I was to ask an English person now how to cook suet pudding.
How to cook what?
Suet pudding.
Never heard of it.
Exactly. You never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
So my mum used to cook suet pudding.
Yeah.
Right.
What is it though?
It's like a steak and kidney pie. So you get dough.
Steak and kidney.
No, it's not. And then you put the steak, meat and onions and other bits. It's really delicious. Not very nice. Yeah, you wrap it up in a ball, then you wrap it up in a dishcloth, then you tie string around it, then you boil it. Yeah. Now that's a traditional English dish that most English people now.
I've never heard of.
Don't eat.
I've heard of.
I can't cook it. I know I want to cook it because it was horrible, but I mean
shepherd's pie, but suet pudding.
We eat other things apart from shepherd's pie. Though you got to fixate. I'm going to make you some shepherd's pie one day.
Shepherd's pie is nothing.
Must allow shepherd's pie.
Yeah. So like I said, there's a lot of things that British people. So when they say you're taking over our culture or they're replacing our culture, I say to them, who's stopping you from practicing your culture?
That's the thing.
Yeah. Who's telling you you can't do St. George's Day, do Christmas? If there was laws to say you can't have Christmas lights up, or there was laws to say you can't do St. George's Day, or laws to say you can't go down the pub and have a game of pool on a Sunday, if there was laws to say you can't have Yorkshire puddings, then I would say, yeah, you've got a point. But no one, the fact that other people are practicing their cultural habits and norms and you're not, That's your problem. If you want to get married to a white lady and have loads of kids and that's your prerogative. It's not a problem for me. I'm not a problem. I haven't got a problem with anyone's culture unless it conflicts with Islam. And there's other cultures within the Muslim community where their cultures sometimes conflict with Islam. So it's not it's not just an a non-Muslim thing. But I think this whole narrative of this Islam is going to take over, Sharia is going to take over, but it's the culture, like I say, it's changing from the left wing. What do you call it? Liberal. Liberal. That's changing it, and that's changing it more than anything. Because there's certain things that when I was growing up, that just when I'm 55, so there's certain things now. I'm probably in the middle of the two generations. I'm not the old school, but I'm not the new school. I'm somewhere in the middle, so I've seen quite a lot of changes.
There are a lot of changes. Especially with British culture. It's not what it was before. So if I was to say to someone from a West Indian background, right, so maybe say to right, if Sharia law comes in, we're going to have to stop smoking weed and drinking Red Stripe. and Dragon Stout. Yeah. Well, that wouldn't go down well, would it? No, it wouldn't go down well. But at the same time, as a human being, you have to look into the preservation of your life. That's the thing. Like, you drink and you smoke, or you but the preservation of your life, the preservation of you being able to see your family longer, that must trump your desires. So at the same time, people might not willingly accept it because it's a strong desire. But at the same time, you have to look at it and say it's not a bad thing. It's not a thing like it's not a bad thing, basically. Because the way that I've seen comments from the white British community here in the UK when it comes to Islam, it is horrible. It's like, it is horrible. And I'm thinking to myself, but Islam isn't even like that. The things that they say that they think Islam is or Sharia is, based on the comments I've read in many different instances online, it is horrible.
So Jordan,
and I'm saying, and just to finish with that, and I'm saying that if they would only just seek knowledge or just have a proper understanding from a brief research, do you get what I'm saying? It would change a lot of the rhetoric that I've seen.
Beautiful point. Yeah. Beautiful point.
So, Jordan, why do you think that white people have this misunderstanding of Islam? Like the brothers just said, the comments, I get a load of them as well. I mean, they're ignorant beyond ignorant. I make joke videos about halal in the shop. And I couldn't be more obviously joking. And the right wing, like, you're right. You must be a complete idiot to believe what I'm saying. It's not, they plant the potato face in Mecca and things like it's like, if you think that's real, if you think that's real, they've slaughtered the bread and things like this. How would you have to, where's your brain?
It's hard to be angry with them, isn't it? When they're that like deluded and
can't be taken.
But if you're taking so why is it, do you think, Jordan, that white people do have that? That's because
it's a good question.
I wouldn't want Islam if I thought like that.
And I think we live in dangerous times where truth isn't that important. People are listening to others, even our politicians. People are not seeking knowledge, like the brother said. People are just because I listened to a far right podcast the other day where it was someone supports Tommy Robinson. He brought an imam in, and he was asking the imam questions about Islam, and he was getting it all wrong. None of what he said was in the Quran. He was getting, and I'm thinking, this guy had like 200,000 subs.
That's that bald-headed guy, isn't it?
Yeah. So he was asking this imam questions, and he was getting it all wrong. And so, I just thought to myself,
like the wrong representative.
I just thought to myself,
this was the interview.
I just thought to myself, you haven't even taken the time to read a little bit of the Quran or go to a Muslim in preparation. So, and this is a guy that's putting information out to loads of these guys. That scared me. That scared me because it means that people are gullible and people are taking information from people that are not educated, and this is spreading. And this is why I think a lot of it's happening.
But this is it, because I think the guy, I forgot his name now. Not that it's important. He's one of Tommy's right hand spokesmen. Isn't he? He's a Tommy fan.
He was awful. He
had no knowledge of the religion. And like I said, if you're going to hold a podcast, he's got like 250,000 followers. You'd at least say, well, let me just check a few of this stuff. Imagine I just talk to a Muslim and see what they know, and then maybe he can inform me. So I'm into this podcast. He's built his platform on anti-Muslim narratives and anti-immigration. He's like Tommy Robinson on podcasts, is what he is. And he's one of his pals, I believe, isn't he? And he knew nothing. So imagine, and he's got a podcast and he talks for a living. You know what I mean? Imagine the others on building sites. They confuse Muslims and Sikhs. So why do you not wear turbans then? Yeah, you know, you wear turbans and you have swords and stuff.
This is what I'm trying to say. For that conversation to be had on a building site, it shows that us as Muslims, we are not doing a good job of conveying Islam the way that it should be conveyed. And that's why we're getting these spin-offs of like being confused with Sikhs and thinking that Sharia is like Muslims running in your house and killing everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's absurd, and it's our fault. You know what I mean? Obviously, ignorance is ignorance, but we are actively supposed to.
But there is a huge, well-oiled machine behind this narrative of pushing that, isn't there? I mean, I agree, but the Doward is desperate. Yeah. It needs a lot of work. But again, you're up against a whole well-funded, well-organized machine to push a real negative viewpoint of Sharia or Islam or Muslims. I mean, Muslims and Islam generally. Sharia is just a part of that conversation, isn't it? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like I said, I always tell people, mate, you're going to get Sharia in this country when everyone wants it. When you all want it, right? That's when you'll get it. That's when it will be ready. Yeah. And whatever you ain't going to want it.
Were you of the far right persuasion before Islam, Doward?
Why do I sound right wing?
I'm just wondering because obviously my story. I was a Tommy Robinson. I never went to any demos or anything, but as a white English guy, the way you saw things on TV, like the attacks that were happening, and you saw all these gangs, and you this is what's fed to you. And I didn't have many Muslims around me. On the media, you're shown. What's his name? Chowdhury. You're showing Tommy Robinson. You're showing all these things. These Muslims, there's something in their mosques. They're covering it up. And if you Google now, you will see that Muslims condemn all the top imams. They condemn all of this stuff, but no one knows about it. It looks underhand. And I just remember, I'm asking you because I definitely, prior to Islam, I thought something was up. I thought something, and that's me. And I don't think I was necessarily.
But you've been a Muslim for 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been a Muslim for 28 years.
Yeah.
So before that,
prior to
9/11.
Yeah.
9/11 changed the game.
Yeah.
Was you a Muslim at 9/11?
No.
Right. So it was changed the game. Completely changed the game for Muslims.
That's when I saw Muslims.
Yeah.
After 9/11.
Because before that, to be honest with you, I was a Muslim for a few years before that. And it was kind of cool. No one really cared that he was Muslim. He's a bit of a weirdo. He's a bit of one of them. But no one really paid you much attention. Straight after 9/11, you had to prove you weren't a terrorist. You had to say it. I don't agree with it. I'm not this. The emphasis was, the spotlight was on you to prove the point. Now.
Yeah. You're one until you've proven otherwise.
So I wouldn't have right-wing tendencies. Although there was a lot of young Pakistani guys that I didn't like back then, before I was a Muslim. But that was a street thing. That wasn't a religious thing, because meeting them in pubs and clubs, they weren't obviously practicing, so I didn't even know what they were. I know they were Pakistanis.
So prior to 9/11, it wasn't.
No, you didn't have that atmosphere at all. So, and I had a lot of Pakistani friends back then, but we also had, little skirmishes. And to be fair, some good battles. But the thing of it is that there was no right wing in it for me. There was just like, we don't like some of them. Now Tommy Robinson come after me, so he was in an era of pure hatred.
When he came after you, did not physically?
No, not physically, brother. I mean, I'm not that lucky that he come out of me. You know what I mean? No, what he time-wise, he's younger than me. You know what I'm saying? So he originally started. How he really started is he was at the bottom of the pond with all the other people at the bottom of the pond. And when you're at the bottom of the pond in the dirty, murky waters, no matter whether they're black, white, brown, yellow, green, or blue, that's the creatures that live at the bottom of the pond. Okay. And now if you come across young Muslim men that are in the bottom of the pond doing what you're doing, because they was all doing their things, then that's who you're going to meet, and that's who you're going to have interactions with. When you come up into clean, fresh water with sunlight and oxygen, you meet clean, fresh people. But when you're down there, it doesn't matter who you're meeting. If you're down there, you're down there, whether they're black, white, brown, or anything else. You're just meeting the people that are doing that. So he come at that era. But I didn't have any right-wing tendencies. I think now I just try and put a point of, I can see the argument that's people saying, they go, but you're changing, the country's changed. I can walk down certain areas of Birmingham, Luton, London, Tower Hamlets here and there, and it ain't England anymore. That is not England, mate. That ain't the Tower Hamlets. That ain't the Luton. That ain't the Birmingham that I grew up in. You know, and I've got to empathize with to sort of understand it, because if you walk through Bury Park, which is like the Muslim area of Luton, it's very not English. I don't even go there.
How did the people come here in the first place?
Exactly.
You brought.
That's what I was thinking.
You.
So
they were brought over. Weren't
they were invited it.
How were they exactly? Yeah. When Rush, and even prior to that, with the Asians coming over here, how did they come in the first? They was
part of an empire.
You guys went over there first.
Where do you say you guys, bro?
Well, I'm responding to.
I weren't there personally.
No, but I'm just saying.
Jordan
I'm just trying to think like people are complaining about something that their own hands have done. Do you get what I'm saying? Whether it wasn't them, it was their you know, the people that preceded them. You know, so
we had an empire. The British had a
exactly,
Jordan,
and you guys went they went places, and now those same people are over here.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like those people, and now we're complaining that Britain is changing. Like
we had an empire. Those people from those countries fought in the wars to help us. They was invited over here in the 40s and the 50s and 60s, mainly from the Caribbean and India
to help build the country and the economy, which immigration did, right?
Well, it did, and they was invited, and they come here. They worked hard. They done a lot of the black people that come here. They worked on the railways and buses,
service industry.
And now they got really good jobs and really good pensions.
And now look, we got laws saying that send them back.
Yeah,
that you done.
That's disgusting.
Send them back.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
And then you got people in the comments that saying like you're not welcome here and you know drown in the waters and
that's the thing.
All of this kind of stuff, and I just confuses me.
This immigration question, you know, with this conversation of immigration, I can have this conversation if they're talking about human beings. You know, like these are human beings. What do we do? What's best? But the conversation has gone really ugly. It is like you say,
it's horrible.
They're invaders.
They're invaders.
They're men of a fighting age. They're coming over attacking our girls. That is how immigrants are now being suddenly posted. And it's not dissimilar to what's happened in Germany in the 40s, and it's happening now.
It's a lot of hate.
It's
instantly hate.
Yeah.
I think there's an agenda as well, man.
So where's that coming from? That agenda?
I don't know where it's coming from, but there is an agenda, man. Because there's always evil people in all cultures. Do you get what I'm saying? There's evil UK British people. There's evil Caribbean, African, and Asian people everywhere. So we 100%. Can't just tarnish a whole group race of people for the few.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like say a lot of them that talk about some like Jordan mentioned about the one doing a podcast. You're supposed to know something. Knew nothing.
They always do that though. Issa. They always do that. Even in movies, when they got a Muslim actor in a movie, they got him saying the wrong words. And it's like you've got billions to spend on the movie, but you can't do a little bit of research to say the right words as a Muslim actor. Like they do it all the time. They get some raggedy old guy who says he's an imam and then starts, you know, he's representing. Like if you can't represent Islam properly, then you're not qualified to say anything. You should find someone that's That's a setup.
I mean, it did. I don't watch EastEnders, but years ago there was EastEnders. They done the Muslim family there spent more time with the Queen Vic than the landlord.
wasn't there a Muslim that like a gay Muslim? Wasn't there in EastEnders?
Yeah, there was.
They tried to.
Yeah, there was.
They tried to fit that in.
No, but every time I switched on EastEnders, the Muslim family was in the Queen Vic. And that isn't normal. I don't care where you go, brother. You're not really going to go to a pub. And he was in there with his daughters. He's in there with his son. His wife would pop in and start talking. Man, that ain't normal. Muslims and Asian people don't generally run in the rubber dub and start talking like it's the Lord Dread.
Family in the pub,
You're right, Stacey.
Usual.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the kind of like reflection that they're trying to give to us, like, and other people.
So where we're going to go with it, bro?
We've done a bad job.
There are frustrations though. Like I get, like, you know, because we're talking about the end where people are dishonest and lying about Islam and in immigration, but there is a side, like I always think, you know, the Tory government were talking about getting immigration down to tens of thousands, and then it like doubled in their year, and you think the average British person's like, what, you just lied to us, like,
they do.
And it just stokes up issues, you know what I mean?
Which is why the what's it called, the Reform Party UK gets so many, because they're just people are so fed up with mainstream politics. You just lie. Conservative, Labour, whoever you say one thing and get in power, do another thing, and spend the rest of the time telling us why you can't do the thing you said you were going to do before we voted you in to do it.
How many years has that been going on for? Like, doesn't somebody have a brain cell to that say, you know, forget all of this? This is not really working. Like it's been happening for years. Like, we promise you this and we promise you that, and then they don't do it. And then we promise you this and then we promise, and then, like how many more times do we have to do that? Like. And then everyone's been goaded to come and vote, and vote for what? Like what for the same lies and that? But we just like people telling us lies.
But why would the government increase immigration to that extent? That's what I've always wondered.
The most of the economy, and they have to do something.
Well, now people blame why they're not getting NHS on it. They blame the fact their job's not right.
They'll get new
house jobs. They're taking a house.
A large portion of the NHS is by immigrants, by people that are not you know, they're from other places.
Yeah, send them all back, except the ones that drive taxis, work in the NHS, doctors.
Yeah,
it's a nonsense. Racism only works when you generalize. As soon as you get specific about it. As soon as racism only works when you generalize it and say, I want all of them gone. But what about Ali, the one that picks your mum up and takes? No, he's good. What about Calvin? No, he's good. Only once you start personalizing, making it into humans.
Any of their parents go to A&E or I don't know the.
We got 4 seconds left of the show. So it's just
is that it? Is that it?